What are you thankful for this Thanksgiving? Hi, I'm Ken Yates from Grace Evangelical Society, and I'd just like to spend a few minutes talking about that. Obviously, there's all kinds of things for which we can be thankful. We live in the United States, we're prosperous. If you've got your health, you got your family, your children, whatever it may be, when you sit around the Thanksgiving table, there's so many things that we could probably list that we're thankful for. But I just want to concentrate just on one. And I thought about it when I was looking in Galatians chapter 3, verses 11 through 14. And as I was reading these verses, I was reminded of a book that Charles Ryrie wrote. I read it a long time ago, and I'm going to make a confession. I don't really remember all that's in it, but the title of the book is So Great Salvation. When Paul in Galatians 3 talks about what happens when we believe, we get a glimpse of just how great our salvation is. As evangelicals, we often think of, well, salvation is just, I'm not going to spend eternity in hell. When I believed in Jesus for eternal life, he gave me eternal life. And certainly that's the greatest benefit that we received when we believed in Jesus for eternal life. But in Galatians 3, in these verses that I just mentioned, Paul mentions some other things that happened when we believed. And he mentions faith. He mentions faith over and over and over again. And I just want to point out a few of them, of these extra benefits that are ours as believers in Jesus Christ. In verse 11 of Galatians 3, he says, "But no one is justified by the law in the sight of God is evident." It's evident that no one is justified by the law. And then he says, "But the just shall live by faith." And really the better translation is, "He who is righteous by faith shall live." And here's a couple benefits that come to us as a result of our faith in Jesus Christ. Number one is we're justified. Being justified is not the same thing as being saved from hell. Being justified is you're declared righteous. And Paul has a lengthy discussion about this in the book of Romans. When I believed in Jesus Christ, I received eternal life, but he also justified me. He also declared me righteous. And what does that mean? Well, before I was his enemy, and now I'm his friend. Before I was under the wrath of God. But when I believed in Jesus Christ, God declared me righteous. Paul says in Romans chapter 5, now we have access to him and we can boldly come into God's presence whenever we want. That's a benefit that is ours now. We were his enemies and now we're his friends. And in that same verse, he quotes from Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4, "He who is righteous, he who has been declared righteous by faith, shall live." And certainly live there includes eternal life, but it includes more. We can have abundant life, that now we have access to him, and because we are his friends and his Spirit lives within us, we can live abundantly here and now. So I would say that here's two benefits that we have as a result of our faith in Jesus Christ, in addition to having received eternal life, that we're going to live with him forever. We've been declared righteous by God. We're his friends. We have access to him. That's one. And the other one, this enables us to live abundantly. We no longer have to serve sin. Then in verse 13, Paul says, Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law. Redeemed there means to have been bought, to have been set free, often used in the context of slavery. Before we were believers, we were slaves to sin. We had no choice but to serve sin. We could only walk according to the flesh. But because Christ died and rose from the dead, taking the curse of the law upon himself, we have been set free from the power of sin, and we no longer have to serve it. Whereas before, we had no choice but to be slaves of it. But now, in this life, we can walk in a way that pleases the Lord. And that leads to the last blessing that I'm going to talk about when we believed in Jesus Christ. In verse 14, he talks about the blessing that are Gentiles because of Abraham's faith. And he even says at the end that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. When I believed in Jesus Christ, this goes back to Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, when God promised that through Abraham's descendant, the whole world would be blessed. And Paul says, including in that blessing is the promise of the Spirit. The Spirit, when I believed in Jesus Christ, indwelt me permanently. And now I can live as I walk by the Spirit and not by the law. I have access to God. I've been set free from the power of sin. I no longer have to serve it. These are all blessings or benefits that are given to the believer at the moment of faith, when we believed in Him for eternal life. And these are just some of the things that were given to us when we believed in Jesus Christ. So when you celebrate Thanksgiving this year, and really any day of the year when you're thinking, what am I thankful for? Remember, be thankful for our great salvation. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd ask that you press the like button and the subscribe button. And remember, keep grace in focus.